Beloved, the question brought to the text is this: WH, give us the latest Bible prophecy news on the war in Iran, Persia, Elam, Edom, for this day today. The lead verse is Numbers chapter 34, verse 2. There WH speaks to Moses and says that when the children of Israel come into the land of Canaan, that land will fall to them for a covenant inheritance, with its coasts. The first word is not fear, but decree. Before armies move, before kings speak, WH has already spoken concerning the land and its bounds. The draw asks first, has the ark of WH come into the camp? The answer is yes. Joshua chapter 6, verse 13 shows 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets before the ark of WH, and Joshua chapter 6, verse 8 closes the draw with the ark of the covenant following after. The ark is in the camp. Yet presence is not license. We must hear what the text says and not run before it. The answer belongs to WH, and the text must stay first. The lead verse says the land will fall by covenant inheritance. Numbers chapter 34, verse 2 places the question in the frame of inheritance and coasts. The war, the noise, the leagues, the threats, all stand inside a word already spoken by WH. His decree is older than the battle, older than the council of kings, older than the stirring of armies. Early in the draw, Joshua chapter 8, verse 16 says the people of Ai were called together to pursue and were drawn away from the city. Then Mark chapter 4, verse 15 says the word is sown, but Satan comes immediately and takes away the word sown in the heart. This is an early warning. In times of war, the first loss is not always land or silver. It is the word taken from the heart. If the heart is emptied, men can be drawn away like Ai, chasing what looks strong while leaving the city open. Then 2 Chronicles chapter 16, verses 2 and 3 shows Asa bringing silver and gold out of the house of WH and sending it to the king of Syria to break a league. That is a grave pattern. Treasure leaves the house, not for offering, but for alliance. Then 2 Chronicles chapter 22, verse 5 says Jehoram walked after their counsel, went to war against Syria, and the Syrians struck Joram. Counsel, league, and war join together, and the end of that road is a wound. Not every alliance is deliverance. Then comes Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 15. You will come from your place out of the north parts, with many people, a great company and a mighty army. This is the strongest war word in the draw. But the next word is Matthew chapter 12, verse 34, out of the abundance of the heart the mouth utters. What fills the heart of a people eventually rides out in the earth. Acts chapter 4, verse 31 says that when they had prayed, the place was shaken, they were filled with the sacred spirit, and they spoke the word of Elohim with boldness. When the earth shakes, pray. When nations rage, speak the word with boldness. Do not answer every trumpet of man with fear. Answer with prayer, with the sacred spirit, and with the word. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 26 says WH will be your confidence and keep your foot from being captured. The draw gives a priestly correction. Jubilees chapter 32, verse 3 says Levi fell to the portion of WH. Numbers chapter 18, verse 8 says WH gave Aaron charge over the sacred things. Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 5 says, Mark well, observe with your eyes, hear with your ears, and attend to the ordinances of the sanctuary. The priesthood portion is WH himself. If that is forgotten, even true signs can become a snare. Joshua chapter 6, verse 13, and Joshua chapter 6, verse 8 return us to the ark. 7 priests go before, trumpets sound, but the center is the ark of WH. The deepest battle is not won by noise, treasure, or league, but by the presence of WH moving in priestly order. Numbers chapter 29, verse 39 speaks of sacredly appointed seasons, and Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 6 says, I have appointed you each day for a year. The war belongs to an appointed season, not to chance. 2 Kings chapter 7, verse 5 says men came in the twilight to the outermost part of the camp of Syria, and there was no one there. The mighty camp became empty. Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 44 speaks of one coming up like a lion, and of making them suddenly run away. When WH arises, camps empty faster than they formed. The text also warns the covenant people. Judges chapter 10, verse 10 says, We have violated covenant against you, and have forsaken our Elohim. Haggai chapter 2, Verse 14 says this people and this nation are unclean, and every work of their hands. Ezekiel chapter 13, verse 10 says they said, peace, and there was no peace. The prophecy news for this day is a call to repentance, cleansing, and truth. Leviticus chapter 22, verse 4 says the unclean do not eat of the holy things until they are clean. Then the mercy of WH stands beside the warning. Isaiah chapter 48, verse 9 says, for my name's sake I will defer my anger, and I will refrain for you so that I do not cut you off. Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 5 says Israel has not been forsaken, nor Judah of his Elohim, though their land was filled with covenant violation. Jeremiah chapter 32, verse 38 says, they will be my people, and I will be their Elohim. The land may be shaken, but the covenant word is not broken. Then comes the call to discern the time. Romans chapter 13, verse 11 says now it is high time to awake out of sleep. Luke chapter 12, verse 56 says, how is it that you do not discern this time? Hebrews chapter 4, verse 7 says, today if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts. This is very direct. The draw answers the request for latest prophecy news by saying, awake now. Discern now. Hear now. The issue is whether the people of YHWH will hear his voice today. Revelation chapter 18, verses 4 and 5 says, come forth out of her, my people, that you may not share in her sins and receive of her plagues. Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 35 says, the violence done to me be upon Babylon. The text speaks of separation from what is under judgment. Do not join yourself to uncleanness or to the promise of peace where there is no peace. Psalms chapter 115, verse 5 says they have mouths but speak not, eyes but see not. So what is the Father saying through this draw? The verdict is lean yes, probably affirmative, and the strong anomaly means the signal is not small. The text says that this day's war news stands inside covenant inheritance, appointed season, priestly order, and coming judgment. The north parts, the great company, the mighty army, the false peace, the lion rising, the call to awake, and the ark going before, all agree in one testimony. Yes, the draw leans affirmative. The present war is touching a true prophetic pattern. But the chief word is this: return to the word, discern the time, come out from uncleanness, keep priestly order, and let the ark of YHWH go before you. The decree is older than the war, the covenant is stronger than the rage of nations, and YHWH will keep the foot of his people from being captured if they hear his voice this day. The verses drawn in this Shield 17.14 session were Numbers chapter 34, verse 2, Joshua chapter 8, verse 16, Mark chapter 4, verse 15, 2 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 2-3, Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 15, Matthew chapter 12, verse 34. This concludes today's interpretation under the Shield Protocol.